قد أفلح المؤمنون.
الله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected Muslim brothers and sisters, welcome back, and this will be part one of our analysis of the Battle of the Camel, Ma'rakatul Jamal. And we're going to begin right after the death of Uthman. Now, Uthman ibn Affan, I'm not going to get into the reasons behind why he was killed. That is a completely different topic entirely. Inshallah, we'll do a bio of Uthman and go over some of that stuff. But our story picks up around the time that Uthman was killed. So, this report, the reports that we're going to be looking over, we're going to be dealing with the immediate aftermath of Uthman's death, and that means we're going to be going over how Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi took the bay'ah and became the Khalifa and assumed the Khilafah. And when I use the term Khilafah here, I don't mean the succession to the Prophet. We know that Amir al-Muminoon was always the Prophet's Khalifa. Here I'm using the term Khalifa in the form of, it's the caliphate, quote-unquote, rulership over the Muslims. With that being said, let us go ahead and get started. So following the death of Uthman, a group of the Sahaba attempted to pull off what we're going to call Saqifah 2.0. Saqifah, if we remember Saqifah, it was a secret meeting called, immediately a few days after the Prophet's death. It was, completely unplanned. It was a felta, as al-Anouk describes it. So when we look at Saqifah, that basically a secret meeting was called in order to bring someone to power, and then they forced everyone else in the city to accept this new Khalifa by force. So when I say Saqifah 2.0, that is what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the fact that a group of people gathered together in order to essentially elect a new Khalifa. Now, the first report we're going to go over, this is Kitab al-Mu'jam al-Kabir by al-Tabarani. Kitab al-Mu'jam al-Kabir in volume 1, page 46, hadith number 113, and this report was graded by al-Haythami in Kitab Majma' al-Zawaid in volume 9, page 89, hadith 14,569. And so the report says and this chain goes back to Alqamah bin Waqqas. He says, we gathered in the house of Makhrama after the assassination of Uthman, intending to give bay'ah. So once again, they are having a secret meeting and they are intending to give bay'ah to someone. Now this report does not explicitly say who, but from the context that we have, I'm going to go ahead and say that this was Talha. It was Talha here that they were trying to make the Khalifa. So a man by the name of Abu Jahm bin Hudayfa, he stood up and said, we will only give allegiance to those among you who seek retribution for Uthman. Enter Ammar ibn Yasir. Now Ammar, we know that Ammar, when it came to Saqifah, he's rather absent from the narrative. He wasn't at Saqifah. There are reports that sort of indicate that he was not one of the early supporters of Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi. So we see that Ammar salamullahi alayhi, he was in this meeting. He was sort of monitoring what these people were trying to do. So when he noticed that they were this close to electing a Khalifa, to choosing another secret Khalifa, just like they did at Saqifah, he essentially chose to throw a bomb into the room and just ruin their plans. So he stood up and said, as for the blood of Uthman, no. So Abu Jahm ibn Hudayfa is saying, the first thing we do if we elect a Khalifa, first thing we have to do is we have to seek vengeance for Uthman. Ammar stood up and said, no, there's no vengeance for Uthman. Because as we know, Ammar did not consider Uthman to be a Muslim. So there's no retribution for the death of a non-Muslim. So Abu Jahm responded, he said, Ibn Sumayyah, do you ask for retaliation for some lashes you were given and deny retaliation for the blood of Uthman? So they departed that day without giving allegiance. So Ammar, this is Ammar sort of, we could say he's redeeming himself. We could see that he had learned from what happened in the past, that he noticed what they were trying to do, and he immediately moved in to stop them. And he did this, he did a fantastic job. He messed up their plan to elect a new Khalifa and pull off essentially a second Saqifah. Now, according to Ibn Sa'd, this is Ibn Sa'd Sahib al-Tabaqat. Now we're going to go into the bay'ah of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. In volume 3 of his Tabaqat, page 22 to 23, he says the following. He says, Uthman was killed on Friday, the 18th of Dhul Hijjah in the year 38 after Hijrah. And Amir al-Muminoon Salamullahi alayh was pledged allegiance to as Khalifa in Medina on the day following Uthman's assassination. And this is corroborated by al-Tabari in his Tarikh. And we're mainly going to be working with volume 16 of Tarikh al-Tabari for this series. So this is the beginning of of his chapter on the events of the year 35. So he says that in year 35 after Hijrah, and this is the 19th of Dhul Hijjah, we would say, the day after Uthman was assassinated, this is when Imam Ali was given bay'ah. So how did Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi receive the bay'ah? How did the people come to him and give him bay'ah? And it's interesting because we can compare and contrast this with Saqifah, inshallah, and we'll see some very important differences. We go to Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf, as well as Tarikh al-Tabari in volume 16, page 1 to page 2. This is Ansab al-Ashraf, volume 3, I believe, page 11. They both report on the authority of Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, Imam Ali's son. He says, I was with my father when Uthman was killed. He got up and entered his house, and the companions of the Messenger of Allah came to him and said, this man has been killed, and the people must have an imam. Subhanallah, I thought imamah wasn't important. I thought imamah is not in the Quran. Apparently the Sahaba seem to think the people must have an imam. And for some reason, the Sunni brothers today have no imam. Wa musibata. The report continues, we know of no one at this time more suitable for this, of greater precedence in Islam, and of closer relationship to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam than yourself. So Ali alayhi salam said, don't do this, it's better that I be a wazir than an amir. So they replied, no, by Allah, we will go no farther until we have given allegiance to you. So Ali alayhi salam replied, it should be done in the mosque then. Allegiance must not be given secretly or without the approval of the Muslims. So compare this to what happened, 25 years earlier at Saqifah. Secret meeting, if the Sahaba were not consulted, anyone who disagreed was basically violently made to give bay'ah. But Ali salamullahi alayhi, the people came to him. They came to him and they told him, we want you to be the Khalifa. He asked him, are you sure? I could be your wazir instead. He said, no, it has to be you. He says, okay, if you insist, then the bay'ah must be given in public. No secret bay'ahs, no secret meetings. Al-Tabari further reports from Abdullah ibn Abbas, who says, I did not like the idea of Ali going out to the mosque because I was afraid that there would be a commotion around him, but he insisted on going there. When he went in, the Muhajirun and the Ansar went in too and gave him bay'ah, and everyone else followed suit. Now this next report from Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah is recorded in a number of sources. It's in Tarikh al-Madinah by Ibn Shabba, it is in Musnad Ahmad ibn Fada'il al-Sahaba by Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and it is in Ansab al-Ashraf by al-Baladuri. All of them more or less have the same wording. They're telling the same narrative. There's minor differences in wording here or there. But we're going to use Fada'il al-Sahaba by Ahmad ibn Hanbal simply because it has a tahqiq. So we read here this report on the authority of Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah. He says, I was with Ali salamullahi alayhi, his father, when a man came in and said, the commander of the faithful is being killed at this moment. He stood up and I grabbed his whip, or some translations it would say, I grabbed his clothing, like I tried to hold on to him, but he said to me, let go, may your mother be bereft of you. He went to the house and Uthman had already been killed. Then the people came to him and said, there must be a leader for the people, and we do not know anyone more deserving of it than you. He replied, do not appoint me, for me to be a minister for you is better than to be your leader. So they said, by Allah, we do not know anyone more deserving of it than you. So he said, if you insist, then my pledge of allegiance must not be in secret. Rather, let us go to the mosque, and whoever wishes may pledge allegiance to me. So he went to the mosque, and the people pledged allegiance to him. Complete night and day when we compare this to what happened at Saqifah with the bay'ah of Abu Bakr. Completely different. Here we see that Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi, the Sahaba, willingly came to him and willingly pledged allegiance to him, and he deliberately did his bay'ah in public so that no one can claim that they didn't know, no one can claim that they were forced to pledge allegiance. Now, we've already introduced Ammar ibn Yasir, we've introduced Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullah alayhi, we've introduced Muhammad ibn Hanafiya and Abdullah ibn Abbas. Now we're going to introduce some of the villains of the story. We're going to introduce Talha and Zubayr, the dynamic duo. In Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 16, on page 3 to 4, we read the following. He reports, and this is on the authority of a man by the name of Abi Mulayh, who says, on Saturday, the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, when Uthman was killed, Ali went out to the market. A crowd followed him and hurried up to him. So he went into the courtyard of Banu Amr ibn Mabdul and went to Abu Amra ibn Amr ibn Mihsan. And this man is a Sahabi. He was one of Ashab Badr, radwanullah ta'ala alayhi, who was later martyred with Amir al-Muminoon at the Battle of Siffin. So he entered the courtyard and he ordered them to lock the door. So the crowd came and knocked at the door, and Talha and Zubayr entered with them and said, stretch out your hand. And so the two of them gave bay'ah to him. So we see that immediately these reports indicate the first people to give bay'ah to Ali were Talha and Zubayr. Habib ibn Du'ayb was looking at Talha when he gave allegiance, and he said, it is a withered hand that first gave allegiance, no good will come of this. Ali then went out to the mosque and ascended the mimbar, his sandals in his hand, wearing a waist strap and a cape and a silk turban. This is not silk as in harir. I believe this is, I forget what it's called in Arabic. It is another substance. It's often translated as silk, supporting himself on a bow. All those there gave him allegiance. Then they brought Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and Ali said to him, give allegiance. But he replied, I won't do so until the people have... But believe me, you've got nothing to fear from me. Ali said to them, let him go. Then they brought in Abdullah ibn Umar, and Ali commanded him, give allegiance. But he replied, I won't do so until the people have. So Ali said to him, bring me a guarantor. Which means, you're claiming you'll give allegiance later. Bring me someone to guarantee it. Bring me someone to testify that you are telling the truth. So Ibn Umar replied, I don't see why I should. Now enter the man, the myth, the legend himself, Malik al-Ashtar. Malik al-Ashtar was standing nearby. So he said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullah alayhi, let me cut his head off. To which Ali replied, no, leave him alone. I'll be his guarantor. I knew it. You are as rude a man as you are a child. And there are many people who ask, what is the stance of the Shia towards Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab? This is Amir al-Mu'mineen himself giving you the answer. He's saying that Abdullah ibn Umar, even as a child, even as a young man, he was always a very rude individual. He was not someone that was worthy of respect, and he did not change at all when he became an adult. And so he refused to give bay'ah to Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullah alayh. Many years later, according to Ibn Abi al-Hadid in his Sharh Nahj al-Balagha, says that one night he came to al-Hajjaj, ibn Yusuf, la'inahullah, in the middle of the night. And so al-Hajjaj said to him, why are you here? So he said to him, I heard Rasulullah say, whoever dies without the bay'ah of an imam will die the death of jahiliyyah. So I came here to give bay'ah. So al-Hajjaj said to him, okay, give bay'ah to my foot. So he stuck his foot out of the bed, and Abdullah ibn Umar gave bay'ah to the foot of al-Hajjaj. This is dunya. You reject the bay'ah of Ali, you end up giving bay'ah to the foot of al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Al-Baladhri reports, and this is another narrative behind how the bay'ah happened. This is a very, very important report. This is Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf, volume 3, page 16. And I'm going to be reading a translation, of course. It reads as follows. And this is reported by Auf, who says, when Uthman was killed, the people began giving allegiance to Ali. Then Talha came. So Ali said to him, give me your hand so that I can pledge allegiance to you. So Talha replied, you are more deserving of it than me. So here Imam Ali, salamullah alayhi, is calling Talha and Zubayr's bluff. He's essentially offering it to them. He says, do you think that you're worthier of the khilafah than me? And so they admitted in front of everyone, Talha admitted in front of everyone, no, you are more worthy of it than us. Al-Tabari further reports, and this is a very interesting report regarding Zubayr. This is Kitab Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 16, page 9. He narrates on the authority of Abu Habiba, the Mawla, the freedman of Zubayr. He says, when the people killed Uthman and gave allegiance to Ali, the latter went to Zubayr. So Ali went to visit Zubayr and asked if he could come in. So the Abu Habiba, the Mawla, is saying, I informed Zubayr. I said, Master, Ali is here. So he unsheathed his sword and placed it under his bed and said, "Let him in." I let him in. He let Imam Ali into the room, and he greeted az-Zubayr, who was standing opposite him. Then he left. So az-Zubayr said something occurred to the man that made him leave quickly. He's like, I don't understand. Why didn't Ali come in? He left rather quickly. Stand where he was and see whether any part of the sword would have been visible. I did so, and I could see the point of the sword, so I told him, and he said that is what hurried the man up. As he left, the people questioned Ali, and he answered, I found the most dutiful and friendly nephew. So, this report indicates, and this is something very dangerous, this is something the Mukhalifin would definitely hate, they would not like this report. It's reported by Az-Zubayr ibn Bakkar, one of their major historians. We see here that Az-Zubayr essentially was willing to kill Imam Ali salamullah alayh, that he was willing to make an attempt on Imam Ali's life. However, Imam Ali, when he stood in the doorway, he saw the sword under the bed, and he realized what was going on, so he left before Az-Zubayr could be given the chance. So the report continues, so they thought it had gone well, and Ali said that Az-Zubayr had given him allegiance. Now this next report comes to us by Al-Hasan al-Basri. Al-Hasan al-Basri is a very interesting character because he's a Uthmani, and he was in Medina when Uthman was killed. He was in Medina when the Sahaba gave bay'ah to Ali, and later he goes to Basra. So let's take a look at what he claims happened next. Hasan al-Basri reports, and this is in Tarikh al-Tabari, volume 16, page 4, he says the following. He says, I saw Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam give allegiance to Ali in one of the palm gardens in Medina. Now the reason why we went over these reports of Talha and Az-Zubayr specifically giving bay'ah to Ali is because later they will break their bay'ah to Ali, and then later they will go so far as to claim that we were forced to give bay'ah, which is a clear lie. Because we see the likes of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and Abdullah ibn Umar, no one was forced to give bay'ah. If you don't want to give bay'ah, you can just go. طيب? But Talha and Zubayr, they were the first people to give bay'ah to Amir al-Muminoon salamullahi alayh, and later they will claim that they were forced, or they would claim that it was valid for them to break this bay'ah. طيب? This next report, now we're going to go over Imam Ali's very first khutbah as Khalifa. Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, now that he has been given bay'ah, now that he is the Khalifa, he has the position, we're going to go over Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi's very first khutbah. And this khutbah is recorded by Jahab in Kitab al-Bayan wa Tabi'in, and this is also reported by Shaykhun al-Mufid rahmatullah alayhi in Kitab al-Jamal. And the reason why I'm quoting Kitab al-Jamal is because Shaykh al-Mufid does not quote the full khutbah, but he notes that this khutbah is extremely well known. He says this khutbah is extremely well known, and it is also reported by al-Madaini. So out of the early historians, we have al-Jahid, we have al-Madaini, both reporting this khutbah of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayh. So the narrator here is a man by the name of Abu Ubaidah Ma'mar ibn al-Muthanna. He says the following. He says, shortly after becoming Khalifa, Ali stood up and said the following. After praising Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he said, Amma ba'd, let no shepherd tend except to his own flock, for whoever tends to others besides himself will be distracted from paradise and hell in front of him. The diligent striver is saved, the seeker hopes, and the negligent one ends up in hell. Three are distinct, one striving hard, one hoping, and one falling short. And there are two, an angel flying with his wings, and a prophet who Allah Azza wa Jal holds by his hand. There is no sixth. The one who claims without right is doomed, and the one who rashly intrudes is ruined. The right and the left paths are misleading, while the middle path is the clear road, upon which remains the teaching of the book, the sunnah, and the traces of prophethood. Allah has treated this nation with two remedies, the sword and the whip, and there is no leniency from the leader in using them. Stay within your homes, mend your affairs amongst yourselves, and repentance is before you. Whoever reveals his face to the truth will perish, and there were matters in which you incline wrongly, and you are neither commendable nor correct in my view. If I wished, I could have said, may Allah forgive what has passed. Now this next part of the sermon is extremely important. Take note of what Imam Ali says here. The two men have gone ahead, and the third stands like a crow whose only concern is his stomach. Woe to him if his wings were clipped and his head severed, it would have been better for him. Observe, if you deny, then deny. If you recognize, then support. There is truth and falsehood, and each has its followers. Falsehood has always acted, and truth may diminish, but perhaps will return. Nothing that turns away ever returns, but if your affairs come back to you as they were, then you are fortunate. But I fear that you are in a period of neglect, and your only duty is to strive. Now the narrator, Abu Ubaidah, adds the following. He says, Ja'far ibn Muhammad salamullahi alayhi narrated, Indeed the righteous from my family and the pure from my lineage are the most forbearing of people in youth and the most knowledgeable in adulthood. We, the members of this household, the Ahlul Bayt, have been taught by Allah's knowledge, have judged by His rulings, and have heard from truthful speech. If you follow our footsteps, you will be guided by our insight. If not, Allah will destroy you by your hands. With us is the banner of truth. Whoever follows it will be saved, and whoever lags behind it will drown. Indeed, it is through us that every believer finds support, and through us the yoke of humiliation is lifted from your necks. Through us there is gain, and through us Allah opens and concludes, and not through you. And this is, when you read Nahj al-Balagha, when you read the compilations of Imam Ali's speeches, this is the very first speech he gave as Khalifa. And we'd say that he sets the tone for the future of his Khilafah. Salamullahi alayhi. He also makes it clear what he thought of the people that did not give him bay'ah in the beginning, as well as the khulafat that preceded him. Now, continuing on, there is a report from Kitab al-Kafi that I want to go over, just to sort of give you an idea of what Imam Ali's priorities were when he first seized control of the government. This is in al-Kafi, volume 8. I believe it's hadith number 26. He narrates with his chain that Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi gave a sermon, so he praised Allah and extolled him. Then he said, O you people, surely Adam alayhi salam did not give birth to a slave or a bondsmaid, and that all the people are free, but Allah has given some authority over others. So the one who has an affliction and he bore it patiently in goodness should not consider it as a favor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, there are things present and we have equality regarding it between the black and the red. So Imam Ali, from the very beginning of his Khilafah, is making it very clear that I do not look at people as in a social hierarchy, as Umar ibn al-Khattab and Uthman ibn Affan did. Adam alayhi salam did not give birth to a man who is enslaved. Everyone is born free. It is, however, through the laws of Allah that some people are given authority over others. But he says, and we will have equality between the black and the red. Al-Aswad wal-Ahmar. Black, obviously, you think of people who are from Africa. Red is a term that is used for people who are, say, from Iran or Persian. So when Imam Ali said this, Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who was present, said to Talha and Zubayr, he has not intended any by this other than the two of you. So he's essentially telling them, he says, you see, Ali ibn Abi Talib, your privileged position that you had under the earlier caliphs is gone. Ali is addressing you and saying, time's up. I'm not going to continue what those people were doing. I'm going to do what Rasulullah was doing. The narrator says, so Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, he gave each of them 3 dinars. This is something that is recorded that Imam Ali opened the Baytul Mal in Medina, which Uthman had filled to the brim with money. He was hoarding all this wealth. Imam Ali distributed this money among the people of Medina. So he gave everyone in Medina 3 dinars. So he gave a man from the Ansar 3 dinars, and afterwards a black boy came over. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam also gave him 3 dinars. So this Ansari said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, this is a slave whom I freed yesterday. You have made me and him as equals. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, I looked into the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I could not find any preference for the sons of Ismail over the sons of Ishaq. So Imam Ali salamullah alayhi is telling this Ansari man, you are a Muslim, he is a Muslim, each of you get 3 dinars. The color of his skin, or the fact that he is a Mawla, the fact that he is a freedman, does not change anything. Both of you get the same thing. So we see right away that Ali's policy of treating the Muslims in such a way made certain people angry, made what we would call the Qurashi bourgeoisie, the Marwan, Talha, Zubayr, made them very upset. Al-Yaqubi in his Tarikh mentions the following line. This is a very, very beautiful line to summarize. I think it summarizes the way many of us feel when we hear about Imam Ali finally ascending to the Khilafah. Tarikh al-Yaqubi records the following in volume 2, page 124. He says that after Ali was given bay'ah, Sa'sa ibn Sawhan al-Abdi, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, stood up and said, "By Allah, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you have adorned the Khilafah, and it did not adorn you. You elevated it, and it did not elevate you. Indeed, it is more in need of you than you are of it." So Sa'sa is telling Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, he's telling him, we needed Ali ibn Abi Talib. We needed you, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. The Khilafah as a system, it needed you. You did not need it. You gained nothing from becoming Khalifa, but we have everything to gain from you assuming authority over the Ummah. Now, continuing on, now that we've gone over the bay'ah of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, I would like to go over Imam Ali's governors. And I'm not going to go over all of them, as obviously Imam Ali appointed governors over Yemen, over Egypt, over Iran, but because we're dealing with Ma'rakatul Jamal, because we're dealing with the Battle of the Camel, we need to know who were Ali's governors of Iraq, because it is these men that would play a big role in the upcoming battle. So the first governor that we're going to go over Imam Ali's governor of Kufa. This is Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf, volume 3, page 14. He says the following. He says, on the authority of the earlier historian al-Madaini, he says, when the news of Ali's appointment reached Kufa, Hashim ibn Utbah, or Hisham ibn Utbah al-Marqal came, and Hashim al-Marqal is one of Imam Ali's big supporters, and he would later be one of his commanders. He came and pledged allegiance to Ali, and he said, this is my right hand and my left hand for Ali. He then recited a poem. He says, I pledge allegiance to Ali without reservation, and I do not feel my leader, the Ash'ari. So a man by the name of Yazid ibn Asim al-Muharabi came forward with his pledge to the people of Kufa for Ali, and Aba Musa al-Ash'ari pledged allegiance to Ali. When Ammar heard about his pledge, he said, by Allah, he will break his pledge, violate his agreement, abandon his effort, and surrender his troops. There's a little bit of explanation we have to do here. The people of Kufa a few years ago had they had risen up and they had overthrown Uthman's governor of Kufa, and they had replaced him with Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. So the people of Kufa, like the Kufan faction of Imam Ali Shia, many of them had a positive view of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. After all, he was a Sahabi. They did not know about what Abu Musa did in the night of Al-Aqaba. They did not know who this man really was, with the exception of Hudayfa, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, and his disciples. However, Ammar ibn Yasir, when he's looking at this situation, he knows Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. He knows exactly who this man is, and so he's looking at the situation like, I don't trust this guy. This guy's he's up to something. He's gonna break his bay'ah soon. So the report continues, or rather the reports continue. According to al-Baladri, on the authority of Abi Mikhnaf, so I want you to make a mental note, Kufa, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Imam Ali is still in Medina. The city of Basra, however, according to al-Baladri, Ali ibn Abi Talib appointed another man to be its governor. On the authority of the earlier historian Abi Mikhnaf, says the following. One second. This is in Ansab al-Ashraf, volume 3, page 22. He says, Ali salamullahi alayhi appointed Uthman ibn Hunayf al-Ansari as the governor of Basra. And these two men are very important. Uthman ibn Hunayf and Sahl ibn Hunayf are two righteous companions of Rasulullah. They were from the Ansar. So Imam Ali appointed Uthman ibn Hunayf as the governor of al-Basra. He found there the deputy of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Qurayz ibn Rabi'a ibn Abd Shams, who was Ibn Amr al-Hadrami, an ally of Banu Abd Shams. Uthman ibn Hunayf detained him and took control of Basra. So this guy, the guy that he found, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Qurayz, was one of Bani Umayyah. He was one of the leftovers from Uthman's regime. So Uthman ibn Hunayf immediately arrested him and took control of Basra. So Uthman ibn Hunayf is very important. He comes up later when we get to al-Basra, when the build-up to the battle actually begins. Now, next report we're going to go over, this is Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf once more, in volume 3, page 22, we read the following. Back to Medina, Talha and Zubayr were up to no good. The report says that Talha and Zubayr sought permission from Ali to perform Umrah. To perform Umrah, you have to go to Mecca. And remember, they're in Medina. So Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi said to them, perhaps you intend to go to Asham or Al-Iraq. Is it really Umrah that you guys want? Or are you guys planning something? You guys up to something? So they replied, may Allah forgive. We only intend Umrah. So he permitted them, and they left hastily, saying, by Allah, we have no pledge of allegiance to Ali upon us. We only gave him allegiance under duress, with the sword over us. When this reached Ali alayhi salam made the following dua. May Allah take them to the farthest abode and the hottest fire. So already we see that Talha and Zubayr are planning a rebellion. And so their first step was to get out of Medina. Because Ali was fully in control of Medina, you can't rebel against him in his own capital. He's far too powerful. You have to go someplace else. So the first stop they had was Mecca. So Quraysh is returning to its old stomping grounds. Now then, it's time to introduce the other sort of main character of this story. We've gone over Ali, we've gone over Talha, we've gone over Zubayr, we've gone over Ammar ibn Yasir, we've gone over some of Imam Ali's governors, but there's one person who's missing in all of this. There's one person who's very important to the Battle of Jamal, to Ma'rakatul Jamal saga, that we have not introduced yet, and that lady is none other than Aisha. And so, allow me to introduce to you Aisha. We read in Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf, and this is in volume 3, page 18, the following report. And al-Balagri also goes over this in volume 6 of Ansab al-Ashraf on page 212 to 213. So he has two different chains for this narrative, for what's about to happen here. So it says the following. It says, Abu Yusuf al-Ansari narrated that he heard the people of Medina talking about how when the people pledged allegiance to Ali in Medina, Aisha heard that the people had pledged allegiance to Talha. So Aisha was not in Medina. She had gone to Mecca because she did not want... She wanted to, a lady is not supposed to get her hands dirty, we would say. So it's like, they can handle Uthman. I want to be in Mecca while they're killing him. So when she found out that people had pledged allegiance, a rumor reached her that it was Talha, that Talha had managed to take the Khilafah. Shout out to Ammar ibn Yasir for making sure that didn't happen. So she said, "O you, the one with the finger, by Allah, they found you suitable for this matter." So she was very happy because, and by the way, Talha, the one with the finger, the reason why Talha has this nickname is because during the Battle of Uhud, his hand had been injured. And so he was always showing off his finger. He's like, look at my finger. Look at how my finger was wounded defending Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I defended Rasulullah. So he was very proud of his injured finger. So Aisha here is calling him, Abu Sib', Sahib al-Sib', the man with the finger. So he said, "Oh, finger man, you finally got what you wanted. By Allah, they found you suitable for this matter." So she approached happily and joyfully as she reached Sarif, where she was met by Ubayd ibn Maslama al-Laythi, who is also known as Ibn Kilab. I think he's, if I remember correctly, this man was her cousin. He was related to her. So, by the way, the area is Surf. So when she reached Surf, she essentially is under the impression that Talha is now the Khalifa, that her cousin, that Banu Taym are back. Right? He's going to return back to the sunnah of As-Siddiq, Abu Bakr. So when she reached this area, the report says she was met by Ibn Kilab. So she asked him the news, and he told her, the people have killed Uthman. So he said, yes, and then what did they do? So then he said they did something good. They were confused by the matter, but they returned to the best of it, and they pledged allegiance to the cousin of their prophet, Ali salamullahi alayhi. So Aisha replied, I imagine the scene, if you've ever seen one of those old cartoons where the character steam, the full face goes full red and steam starts coming out of the ears, I imagine that something like this happened. Because Aisha replied, did they really do that? I wish that this sky would collapse on this earth if the matter is truly completed for the one you mentioned. So Ibn Kilab, poor guy, is confused. He asks her, why? By Allah, I do not see anyone today on earth like him, so why do you dislike his authority? But she did not respond to him, and she turned back to Mecca. She went to the Kaaba and veiled herself, saying, "We expressed our grievances to Uthman regarding certain matters, and we mentioned them to him, but he repented and sought his Lord's forgiveness. The Muslims accepted that from him, and he had no choice in the matter. But then someone, in the first report we see, in volume 3, it says someone, but if we look at volume 6, she names this man. She says, قتله علي ibn Abi Talib. So someone, i.e. Ali, salamullahi alayh, attacked and killed him, which is a complete lie. Ali did not have anything to do with the death of Uthman. And by Allah, he was killed after they wrung him out like a washed garment and purified him like a clean heart. And so Aisha is essentially doing, in mathematics, this is called a 180 turn. She's pulling a 180 turn because a few days ago, she hated Uthman. A few days ago, Uthman was Na'thal. Now, Uthman is Mathloom. And Ali, that evil conniving Ali ibn Abi Talib, killed him, according to Aisha. And we see another report, a similar report in Tarikh al-Tabari in volume 16, page 52 to 53. The report says the following. This one is in English. I'm not going to read the full one. You're free to read it for yourself. The report says that when Aisha said she would demand vengeance for Uthman, Ibn Kilab said to her, "How is that? By Allah, you were the first to incline the blade against Uthman, and you were saying, 'Kill Na'thal, for he has become a disbeliever.'" So even Ibn Kilab was amazed at this 180 turn that Aisha had done regarding Uthman ibn Affan. Now we're going to go over the final chapter for part 1, inshallah. And this is when Aisha, Talha, and Zubayr join forces. So the reports tell us, and this report comes from al-Baladhari with his chain to Salih ibn Kaysan, and Sab al-Ashraf, page 22 to 23. He says the following. He says, Talha and Zubayr came to Aisha, and they agreed to go to Basra to seek retribution for Uthman's blood. Ya'la ibn Munya, and some reports call him, he's also known as Ya'la ibn Umayyah. He was Uthman's governor of Yemen. So when he had heard that Uthman was killed, he immediately took as much money as he could from the Baytul Mal and took as many camels as he could, and he raced to Mecca. And so now he is joining with Aisha, Talha, and Zubayr. So he arrived from Yemen and provided them with 400 camels, including Askar, the camel that Aisha would later ride on in the Battle of the Camel. Al-Tabari reports, and this is in volume 16, page 43, and this is one of the more dangerous reports regarding Ma'rakatul Jamal, with his isnad to Az-Zuhri. And the same report can be found in Al-Tabari's and Sab al-Ashraf. And we're going to read the English translation here. It says the following. According to Az-Zuhri, and the chain to Az-Zuhri is Sahih, Talha and Az-Zubayr went down to Mecca 4 months after the killing of Uthman. Ibn Amr, a wealthy man, was there, and Ya'la ibn Umayyah had arrived with him, bringing a large sum of money and more than 400 camels. So they gathered together in Aisha's house and exchanged opinions. "Let's go to Ali and fight him," they said. One of them replied, "We don't have the strength to fight the people of Medina. Let us instead go and take Basra and Kufa. Talha has a following and a popularity in Al-Kufa, and Zubayr has support and a following in Al-Basra." So they agreed to go to Basra and Kufa. So now I want to stop here before we read the rest of the report and ask the question, were they looking for vengeance for Uthman? Is that what they were looking for? They're not saying, let's go to Basra because Uthman's killers are in Basra. They are in fact saying, let us go to Basra because we need to overthrow Ali. And the money is in Iraq. If we're going to overthrow Ali, we can't attack him directly in his capital. Rather, we have to attack one of the other garrison towns. And at that point, Al-Kufa and Al-Basra were both very, very wealthy cities. The report continues. They agreed to go to Al-Basra and Al-Kufa, and Abdullah ibn Amr gave them a great deal of money and camels. So 700 men from Medina and Mecca set off, and others joined them, increasing their number to 3,000. When news of their departure reached Ali, who appointed Sahl ibn Hunayf as his governor of Medina. This is Sahl ibn Hunayf, the brother of Uthman ibn Hunayf. Uthman ibn Hunayf is governor of Basra. Sahl ibn Hunayf is now governor of Medina. Ali then set off himself, traveling to Diqar, where he pitched camp. it took him 8 nights to reach there with a company of Medinians. Now, before we continue, there is a report. Remember how I told you that there were some prophecies regarding Ma'rakatul Jamal? If we go to Kitab Sahih al-Bukhari, this report is in Sahih al-Bukhari as well as Sahih Muslim. The Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 3104, as well as Sahih Muslim, Hadith 2905d on Sunnah.com. Read the following. Narrated Abdullah, and I believe this is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and the report of Sahih Muslim is Abdullah ibn Abbas. Actually, no, this is both Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar. Both these reports come from Abdullah ibn Umar. He says, قام النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم خطيبا فأشار نحو مسكن عائشة فقال هنا الفتنة ثلاثا من حيث يطلع قرن الشيطان. Now, the Mukhalifin, in their infinite wisdom and their mastery of the Arabic language, keep in mind, this is the same people that believe that Nala minhu does not mean Muawiyah insulted Ali, and that Mawla, in fact, means friend. In their infinite wisdom, they have declared that this report is not about Aisha's house. It is regarding the East, which is why they've added in parentheses, i.e. from the East, i.e. eastwards. The original hadith does not say that. In fact, what's interesting is that if we look at the Bab of this report, which al-Bukhari put this report under, this tradition under, it says Bab ma ja'a fi buyuti azwaj an-nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He doesn't say wa alihi, I added that. Wa ma nusiba min al-buyuti ilayhun, or ilayhin. So the report is, the chapter is about the houses of the Prophet's wife. That is the subject here. And this report, the Prophet is pointing to Aisha's house. He is not pointing to the east. Furthermore, the report says ha huna al-fitna, not ha hunak. So he is warning the ummah that fitna will rise from Aisha's house. This is where the horn of shaitan will reveal itself. Now, if we go back to the report of Az-Zuhri, where does he say that Ashabul Jamal first agreed to join forces and to rebel against Imam Ali? If you go back to the report, it says they gathered in the house of Aisha. Now, the last report that we will go over, and this comes from Tarikh al-Tabari once again in volume 16, page 44, we read the following. The report says, and this is on the authority of Auf, that Ya'la ibn Umayyah assisted Az-Zubayr with 400,000 dirhams and provided mounts for 70 men from Quraysh. He also had Aisha mounted on a camel called Askar, which he had obtained for 80 dinars. As they set off from Mecca, Abdullah ibn Zubayr looked towards the mosque and said, "Never have I seen anything more of a blessing to the seeker of good or the shunner of evil than you." Which is hilarious because Ibn Zubayr is saying that the Kaaba shuns evil as he and Ashab al-Jamal are leaving Mecca and making their way to Basra. With that being said, that concludes chapter 1. The preliminaries for Ma'rakatul Jamal, the story of how Imam Ali got bay'ah in the very beginning of the rebellion. We now have Aisha and her allies, Talha, Zubayr, Ya'la ibn Umayyah, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr making their way towards Basra. In the next part, inshallah, we will go over the reports regarding how Aisha and her supporters took over the city of Basra. And inshallah, we will also go over Imam Ali's response as he also begins making his way towards Iraq. With that being said, we will end this video. We will end this lecture. Please keep us in your dua. We will end with salawat and Surah Al-Fatiha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.